Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got an interesting show for you today. Got a lot of news. All right, let's pull this one up here. It's definitely getting hot in Florida, and it's getting real. Now, you know I follow Florida quite closely because they are my nemesis.
Hey.
Hello, Newman.
Hello, Jerry.
That's right, they are my Newman, definitely. And of course, we're going to be playing them in 2 weeks. And to me, and I've told you folks this, the season starts that third game for me. I wasn't worried about Virginia. I know some of y'all were giving me grief. It's like, you need to not look past Virginia and all that. It's not that I was looking past them. I just wasn't concerned about them. You know, I saw the team that they had. I saw the team that we have. I felt like the defense was going to improve this year. It clearly has. That was the best defensive performance we've had in a very long time. The only touchdown that Virginia scored was when we put in our backups. It was 35-3. A bunch of new guys came in onto the defense, and they were able to drive. And that happens, and that's okay because those second string and third string guys, they need those live reps. They're not going to get better necessarily on the practice field because what happens is they think, oh, I should be playing. And then they get out in a real game, and they're not able to stop anything. And then the coaches can coach them because now they can say, now look what happened here. Now look what happened here. This is why you're not starting. We're going to fix all of this. And then you're a type of guy that can become a starter at some point. So anyway, that's why that doesn't bother me. You know, I know a lot of people are like, all of a sudden, what happened to our defense? Well, it wasn't our defense, okay? And of course, Florida, look, they're in a bad spot, okay? That's just a fact. I was about 50-50 on Billy Napier. The thing that concerned me the most was our final games. You know, losing to Vanderbilt got my attention because that's something that good coaches usually don't allow to happen. It just, when a team that's clearly not better than you wins, and look, it was in Nashville, but that's not a home field advantage, okay? If you've ever played in Nashville, you know that. But they lost that game. And then they also just got hammered in the bowl game, and that bothered me the most as far as being concerned about Billy Napier because they didn't have Anthony Richardson and they couldn't score a point. Now, they scored a field goal at the end, which that also kind of bothered me. I was like, you should be going for a touchdown. What are you trying to, not have a goose egg? I don't believe in that. You need to try to win. You play to win the game.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
Exactly. Now, I'm not going to sit here and BS you. Look, all of us Vols fans, we liked seeing them lose. Even though I would have preferred them in some respects to be undefeated when we met them. On the other hand, it's just hard for me to root for the Florida Gators because they've had our number for a long time and they've taken a big old dump in our Cheerios for about 20 years, and I'm sick of it. And ever since Josh Heupel got here, it's a different feeling. You know, we finally got that monkey off our back last year at Neyland, and we had to kind of struggle at the end to make sure we got that. But it just seems like with Heupel, it's just not the everything's different. It just feels different.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. It's that type of feeling. But anyway, you know, if you've watched this channel, I've got two channels that I keep up with whenever I want to know what's happening with the Gators. The first of which is High Top Sports, and the second of which I've just discovered maybe 6 months ago, was Peek Into the Gators. So those are my go-tos when I want to know what's going on. Now, High Top is a little bit more realistic typically, but there has been a change, not necessarily with High Top, but he keeps it real, keeps it 100 for the most part. Now, he's, obviously a huge Florida Gator fan, and he's going to lean their way, which is perfectly normal. That's what I do too. But Allie of Peek Into the Vols has always been kind of a sunshine person. Everything's rosy. She's the glass half full all the time. And she's been super supportive of Billy Napier, but I like her content because she's got a lot of connections with Florida. I didn't realize she was married to the former punter of the national championship team. I didn't know that. And also a lot of people in her family played at Florida. So she's very interconnected in Florida and gets a lot of information that's useful. It's almost insider information if you want to call it that. But I like that kind of stuff. But anyway, instead of the sunshine and roses, she kind of had a video the other day that was, she's still supportive of Billy Napier. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. But she had a kind of heart-to-heart with the Florida Gator folks about what's happening there, and she's not happy. And it's the first just kind of, hey, I'm sick of this. We need to talk. And it was a we need to talk moment. So I'm going to show you some clips of both of that. And I think you'll get a feel for what's happening down in Florida because, they're trying to hold on to a really good recruiting class, and they don't need to start losing a bunch of players. And there's a concern, there should be. These are 17-year-old kids. If they start seeing a team going downhill and they're coming off 2 losing seasons, that can be problematic. So they're trying to make sure that doesn't happen, and they're trying to be supportive of Billy, but it's tough right now, okay? And look, it's 1 game, but it's 3 games in a row where things have just gone poorly. And I'm going to start with High Top Sports on this video, and this video's titled, Gators Fans Are in a Frenzy. And it was actually over a tweet that was during the game when they were struggling, and Colorado, of course, was, can you believe Deion Sanders? You got to be kidding me. I never dreamed he could win that game. And they came out and just balled out. And now I don't have a ton of respect for TCU. If you watch this channel, you know that. Georgia punked them. But they did make it to the Final Four, and you can't take that away from them. Even though we should be able to, you can't. But, they won that game, which just blows my mind. But anyway, one of the relatives of ETN, who is their best running back, tweeted something out.
Been deleted. So Trevor's bigger brother who plays with Jacksonville, as the TCU and Colorado game came to a close, Travis tweeted out, says, man, maybe Trevor should hit the portal and head over to play for Coach Prime. And I saw that and I go, oh, son of a... Because I knew that it was more than likely a joke because that's just the world we live in. You know what I mean? You're watching this game. There's 45 points being put up. Dylan Edwards rushed for like 145 yards and like 3 touchdowns, who was the freshman running back that decommitted from Notre Dame. It's exciting. It's electric. And Travis takes a jab. Not at a good time, right? Not at a good time at all. I love the kind of the dark humor. I'm cool with it. Again, I saw that. I knew it was more than likely a joke, but I also knew the repercussions that would come from it. And then somebody had the audacity to put in a Gator room that I'm hearing Trevor's going to sit out for the rest of the year. He's transferring for... Oh, nonsense. Absolute nonsense, which gets everybody riled up. Everyone's taking the bait. It sucks. Thankfully, Trevor shut it down, which is very helpful. Says he retweeted his brother's tweet and said, we finna shake back, just wait. Love it. I'm glad Travis deleted. I mean, I don't know. You could have left. I don't really care. He deleted the tweet because I think he realized the backlash that came from it, because it was, dude, what did he think was going to happen? I don't know. That's what's Twitter, man. It's off the top of your dome and you fire one out. But everyone panicking doesn't need to panic. This is where we're at. I think Trevor's bought in. If you saw, Trevor was running the show. We didn't see Montrell Johnson very much at all. All
right, yeah. So they're in a situation to where any little thing can cause a panic with the fan base. And I understand that because they feel vulnerable. That's really what it boils down to. When you're struggling and you've got this really good, look, it's a top 3 class, okay? It's loaded. And they know that's the key to getting back to top play. You've got to have the Jimmies and Joes. And they're wanting to hold on to that. And that's the type of tweet that'd be like, oh my gosh, what if ETN transfers or if he sits out a year? That would be a nightmare for him because really he's their best running back. And they ran for 12 yards against Utah, which just shocked me until I saw the South Carolina-North Carolina game where they ran for -2 yards. So 2 teams that in Florida is supposed to be a running team this year. If you'll remember, they were almost kind of glad in a way that Anthony Richardson was leaving for the NFL because he just wasn't – he didn't have a good arm. He was throwing 52, 53%. I've been through this, okay, at Tennessee. All of us Vols have been through this when Josh Dobbs left, and we thought, well, he's the greatest runner we've ever had. Super smart, always gets us in the right play. He was carrying us, and I don't think that Butch Jones realized it. But when he left, we brought in a guy that had a great arm, but he was pedestrian. He couldn't run. And we got slaughtered that season, and Butch Jones got fired. And I'm going to have a video about Butch Jones later today that you'll find interesting. But back to this show. Without AR, they thought, well, we're going to bring in this guy, and he'll never miss these little short passes that AR's been missing. And he didn't. I mean, it's not like Graham Mertz played poorly. He's got a real nice arm. He was a top 60 recruit. He's got tons of arm talent. And he's a good kid. You can tell he's smart and all that. But he's pedestrian. And that's not going to work for Florida, I don't believe. One of the reasons they ran the ball so well last year is because you couldn't key on the running backs. You had to worry about what the crap Anthony Richardson was going to do. He was going to put on a Superman cape all of a sudden and run 80 yards on you. I mean, he ran for so many yards on us and passed. It was just, he turned into, I don't know what he was. But with the quarterback they got now, you're not worried about him taking off at all. And he hit those little mid-range, little short passes, hit most of them, like over 70%. But that's not scoring touchdowns. That's good at moving the ball between the 20 and the 20. But you need something special to score in the red zone, and I just don't see Graham Mertz doing that. And on top of it, to give Graham a little bit of credit, he didn't have a lot of time to throw the ball because that offensive line was not doing a good job. When you run for 12 yards, that lets you know the offensive line's struggling, and Utah's defensive line had their way with them. They were in that backfield the whole time, and they got 5 sacks. And 5 sacks are absolute killers on drives. You almost can't come back from it because not only you lose yardage, but you lose the down. And now you're behind the sticks, and now they're going to pin their ears back, and they're going to come at you even worse, especially when you can't run the ball. So, they got what they wanted. Unfortunately, you got to go with what you got. I don't blame them for supporting Graham Mertz or supporting Billy Napier. You got to go with what you got. But when 2 guys are on the field with the same number, when you run 30 seconds off the clock at the end of the third quarter and you're down 3 touchdowns and you're lackadaisical, that would bother me the most about Billy, that he allowed that to happen. And I didn't see a sense of urgency. And you'll hear Allie speak of that as well. But anyway, there's a lot going on down there in Florida, and that's just sort of a background. Now we're going to peek into the Gators. And as I've told you, like I said, she's very positive towards the Gators. This is the first time I've heard her just some real talk. And she got a little bit rough, but in a very professional manner. I mean, she said what needed to be said, and she was spot on. But I'll let you hear the words for yourself.
UF went out to Utah this week and got embarrassed and outclassed. There is no way around that. We're not going to hide from that or try to spin it into a good thing because it's not. That was about as disappointing a performance as you could have ever hoped for to start year 2 of the Napier era. Guys, it's not about the loss. Florida is going to lose ball games this year. There was 0% chance of them running the table and having a perfect season. And I think all of us knew that, right? But the way that Florida lost was incredibly frustrating for Gator fans. But I'm going to tell you why the most frustrating aspects of Thursday night's game may actually be the most fixable. A lot of this is going to come down to Billy Napier himself. Before I get too far into this, I want to start by saying that I am a Billy Napier fan. I think he is a fantastic recruiter, a pretty darn good CEO, and a great human being. I want him to be the guy to right this ship, and I want him to have the time to do it. All of that being said, Gator Nation is not known for being patient, and games like Thursday night don't help, and not because the Gators lost, but because the Gators looked unprepared and out-coached. So let's talk about some of the most glaring problems. If you are not new to this channel, you know that special teams is so important to me. A large part of that comes from being married to a national champion punter. And a lot of that comes from being around during the Urban Meyer era when special teams were everything. They were, first of all, 2 men wearing number 3 on the field at the same time. That is inexcusable. Honestly, that's kind of a fireable offense, not for Billy Napier, but whoever was responsible for checking those lineups.
Yeah, that's some real talk right there now. And that really, everybody's in shock over that. I've personally never seen that. I'm sure it's happened, but I've never seen it happen. Not in a situation like that. Realize it was 7-3 and Florida's getting the ball back. And they get this stupid penalty, which gives the ball right back to Utah. They score, it's 14-3. I mean, you talking about a momentum swing. That could have gone totally different. Florida was heavily in that game. Really, they should have been ahead, I thought. It's except for the one big play, that 70-yard first play. They were hanging in there really good. But that play I thought was pivotal. And then things kind of went a little bit off the rails after that several other times. But I'll let her continue.
There is not a scenario in the world that I'm going to buy that makes that acceptable. I don't care that they were freshmen. I don't care that it's the first game of the season. That is somebody's responsibility. And somebody didn't do their job to check to make sure that there weren't 2 number 3s on the field. And then fielding punts inside your 10. This is insane to me as well. They teach you in Pop Warner, park yourself on the 10-yard line and don't go backwards. This is elementary. There is no part of this. There's no decision that needed to be made in that moment. No, it went over your head. You let it go every time. Another special teams error. Not enough men on the field. Florida's not good enough to stick 8 men out there and expect something good to happen. We weren't good enough sending 11 out there and expecting good things to happen. So we definitely can't shortchange ourselves. That is the little details. And then we had guys that were trying to bring balls out of the end zone. Let it go. This is insane. These are the details. Special teams matter. I talked to somebody who has knowledge of how special teams works under Napier and under Mullen. And you know what they told me? That they aren't surprised because Florida doesn't spend a lot of time on special teams right now.
Boy, and if you don't think special teams is important, look what we had happen to us Saturday. We had a fumble by really a terrific punt returner, which is D. Williams. He had a great day other than that. And that was a great return, but you cannot fumble, obviously. And he had 3 returns, an average of 35 yards, which is superior. I mean, he is just a home run waiting to happen. But then we had 2 shanked punts on top of it. So I get it. It's very important, and it can cost you a ball game like that. It can win you a ball game too. So really, that's rare for us. We normally, special teams is usually one thing that is really positive for us. It was great last year. So I think that might have just been a first game fluke. And we do have a new punter who is actually very talented. So I think we'll see a huge improvement in that in the next game. But I want D. Williams to run that ball back every time that he thinks it works for him, because when he does, he's gonna take it to the house eventually. There's no doubt in my mind, because that's what he does. He is scary when he gets that ball in his hand.
Napier needs to not just talk the talk. He needs to walk the walk. That means special teams needs a much bigger emphasis than it's currently getting.
Snap out of it.
Let's talk about the next problem. Play calling. Listen, Florida needed to establish the run. And I understand our offensive line did not play well, but it felt like Florida wasn't even trying to establish a run. 6 attempts combined between Johnson and Etienne going into halftime. That is unacceptable. There was 10 attempts combined between the 2 of them the entire game. The clock management was terrible, particularly on the last drive. 0 sense of urgency. It seemed like they had never even practiced a 2-minute drill.
And even more than the mistakes that were made by the coaches, that's the thing that would concern me the most. I've seen this. I saw a little bit with Butch Jones, some of the mistakes he would make on the field, but he was at least urgent about stuff. He got upset and we cared. And I know Billy Napier cares. I have no doubt of that. But the way he acted, the lethargic mindset that he was in, letting that clock go down 30 seconds in the third quarter, and then just, like I said, it looked like a scrimmage. They're down 3 touchdowns, and he's like, we're just going to run plays. That's what we're going to do. I didn't see any clapping like, let's go, we got to hurry. There was none of that. So that would be the part that concerns me the most, and Allie's picked up on it very astutely.
Honestly, watching what I watched on the field, I'm kind of surprised if Florida has ever practiced a 2-minute drill, because it certainly didn't look like it. Florida got to the red zone 4 or 5 times, and they walked away with 11 points. They actually moved the ball well until they got to the 20. If Florida had scored on those opportunities, we're talking about a different ball game. And some of that does come down to play calling. Procedural penalties, that is all about discipline. We have listened to Billy Napier going into year 2 discuss discipline ad nauseum. It is something that he takes very seriously. It's something he's told us he has worked to change.
Now she's talking about scoring in the red zone. You got 2 major problems that you didn't have with Florida last year. First of all, Florida could run the ball last year, mainly, not entirely, because of Anthony Richardson, because he was so dangerous. it was 50% chance he was going to run on you. He'd go back to throw that pass, and the whole field would spread, and then he might throw it, but he might just with that 4.4 or 4.5 speed, and then on top of it, he was strong as a cable. We tried to tackle him a few times, and he was so hard to get down. It was unbelievable. If they cannot run the ball, if Florida cannot run the ball, which in that game they couldn't, you are going to struggle in the red zone unless you've got Tom Brady. And you'd better have Tom Brady because that's what's required. You have to have perfect passes in the red zone if you can't run the ball. And you know it's hard to throw the ball when you're on your back, which is what Graham Mertz was dealing with. He was either in heavy traffic or he was getting sacked. And then the offsides over and over and over is just an absolute killer, especially when you're not running the ball. So if they do not fix the ability to run the ball, they're going to struggle in the red zone guaranteed the entire season. Until they fix the ability to run the ball, you're just not going to score. That's one of the great things Tennessee's done since Josh Heupel has come in. You know, we ran for 289 yards, and I know it was against Virginia. It wasn't against Utah. But when you can run the ball, you can do anything. When you can't run the ball, you can only do one thing, and you better do it perfect. Absolutely perfectly.
Did Florida have any idea of the time crunch they were in towards the end of that game? A team takes on the personality of their coach, and Napier looked cool as a cucumber on the sidelines. And I know a lot of times that is a good thing. Napier is even keel. He doesn't fly off the handle. His personality is one that players connect with because they're not getting constantly yelled at, chewed out, whatever. But you know what? I think we need him to get fired up a little bit on the sideline when the game is on the line, and we need these guys to move their butts. Do you know what a get back coach is? I don't think Napier has a get back coach because I've never seen him get fired up enough to have somebody have to pull him back from the sidelines. I need to see that from him. His players need to see that.
It did happen one time last year at UT. When he played UT, he was fired up, and he coached like a man with his hair on fire. Matter of fact, he had to have 3 guys pull him back. If you'll remember from that ball game, he was losing it, and he was on those refs hard. Now, I didn't care for the way he coached because he left points on the field because he was almost too aggressive. He was too aggressive. It seemed like he felt like he was down 3 or 4 touchdowns before they ever kicked it off. And I think it's because our offense was so dynamic that he was like, oh, crap, I'm going to have to score a touchdown every time. And he had, you had the number 4 pick in the NFL draft and Anthony Richardson, who I'm a big fan of. I'll go ahead and tell you, I know his arm talent's not there, but he scared the crap out of me when we played him. And that's what I go by. And I saw what he did against us, and our defense wasn't that good anyway. I'm so glad that it has improved, but I didn't like the Graham Mertz pick. I just didn't. I felt like they needed to spend some money, big money, and bring in a superstar-type quarterback, and if that costs a lot of money, it costs a lot of money. That didn't happen, and now they're stuck with a pedestrian quarterback with a poor offensive line and 2 good running backs. Those running backs are high quality. It's not their fault. Something's got to give on that. So we're going to see how this plays out. But then, Allie, towards the end, look, that was that's the first time I've seen her get just super real on this channel. Maybe she has and I missed it. But they're tired of it. And she knows a lot about football, obviously. Being married to somebody that played football, her family all played football. She's very aware of how football works. This is not somebody reading a script, okay? Okay. But she sandwiched. She said very nice things about Billy. Then she ends with very nice things about the team and Billy. But right in here, the meat, the cheese, the lettuce, tomato, and all that, that's where all the heart of it is. And she's spot on. And this is not me putting this on my channel because it's all going to be UT people mainly watching this. And, look, we're happy they're losing, okay? I'm not going to sit here and BS. We're very happy they're struggling. But if there's anybody out there that thinks this is going to be easy in 2 weeks, it's not going to be. I'm telling you, it's going to be a war. That swamp will be ready to turn their season around, just like South Carolina did last year. See, we thought we were just going to roll the football out there against South Carolina. We're so good, and they just got killed by Florida, by the way, the week before, and we just thought we're going to own them. We're going to own them. And guess what? They had their backs against the wall. They were wounded animals. And a wounded animal is the most dangerous in the world. And a wounded alligator, woo, It's going to get rough. I promise you, they're going to bring not only their A game, their B game, they're going to bring every letter in the book. So I know some of you think we're going to walk down there and we're going to whoop up on them by 50. I would be shocked if that happened. Completely. I'd be happy, but I'd be shocked. That's going to be a brutally tough ball game. I think we're going to win by 7 points. That's what I think it's going to be, and I think it's going to be a dogfight the entire game, and we're going to be fortunate to win that game. And I would not be shocked if we lose it because we've lost the last 10 times down there. So anyway, and I'll let you listen to her finish up because I don't want you to leave the impression that she was just ripping on the team, because she's not. She's been the most positive person on YouTube about the Florida Gators, and she's got a love for them, obviously, but she's upset, and rightfully so.
This team didn't look gassed. They were still giving 100% effort. That is a good thing. Listen, it seemed like it took a long time for the defensive play calling to get in. But listen, I think we're going to see rapid improvement there. This was the first game that Austin Armstrong has ever called, and this defense has a ton of new faces. So that part is going to get better. But this defense is already an improvement over last season. Utah was only 3 of 13 on third downs. Dare I say maybe we will stop having nightmares about third and Grantham this season? But all of this is improvement. Florida's defense played better against Utah than we saw them play last season. Things are headed in the right direction there. Last year, when Florida beat Utah, Gator fans were convinced that Napier had fixed all of our problems and righted the ship his very first offseason. It took just that one victory to get way too high on a team that honestly had a long way to go. It set up unrealistic expectations, which then later turned into disappointment. Let's not do that again this season. UF has 2 weeks. We all know they're going to win against McNeese State. But it's what they do in the 2 weeks, for 2 weeks from now in the swamp, that is probably going to define what the rest of the season looks like.
Yeah, she couldn't be more right than that. I see it the same way. I think our season hinges a little bit on that game as far as the first half of the season. If we win that game like we did last year, I think we're off to the races and should have a great season. You know, we're not going to go undefeated, I don't believe. I can't see that. But, you know, if you don't win that game in Florida, you definitely won't be. But I look for it to be a special night. And I know some of this is battered Vols syndrome talking, but I think it's going to be epic. And it's going to be a lot like this.
Say when.
Absolutely. It's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be a dogfight. And I can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome. And I also want to tell you, I have communicated with Allie of Peek Into the Gators, and she's also talked to High Top Sports, and I'm probably going to do some collaborating and I've reached out to them, by the way, because I would like to collaborate with them. They're my 2 favorite channels that cover Florida, and they put out great content. They just really do. And if you want to know what's going on with Florida, those are the 2 channels that I would recommend, because they'll keep you up to date. And I will be attaching both of those videos in the description underneath this video. All you got to do is just hit that little link, and it'll take you right to this video of Allie and also to High Top Sports. And like I said, if you want to keep up with Florida, just subscribe to them. And it'll send you some videos. And like I said, you just watch what you want to. You know, I know you don't want to watch Florida all the time, but occasionally just keep up with them. That's the 2 places to go. Oh, and speaking of collaborating, Wednesday at noon this week, I'll be doing a show with Boogie Bentley of Talkin' Vols, and also BVD, Big Vol Daddy, at noon on Wednesday on this channel. I'll have those 2 guys with me, and it should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk everything Vols and everything SEC. It'll be a good time. So be sure to check that one out. And then the next week, I believe we'll be on Big Vol Daddy's channel, and then the week after that, we'll be on Boogie's channel, Talkin' Vols. So anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's be able to continue to cover the Vols and all our opponents, the SEC. I like to cover the SEC. It's fun. And if you've not subscribed, it's on my right, your left. Just hit that little button. I would appreciate it. Makes it easier for you to get my videos, and it doesn't cost you a penny. And then right over here is most recent video that YouTube thinks you'll love. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.